I think it was fun taking us out on tour. So it was your whole show for 3 months. Even if you lost all 5 tests, it was your little party, your show, and the whole thing was yours. That's what I liked. That's what I liked about running Kent County Cricket Club, is that the whole of Kent looked to you and said, "Look, that's yours." And you know, if it goes wrong, you get the sack.
For Colin Cowdrey, a fast pitch on a balmy summer's day at Canterbury would serve well as an idea of heaven. The perfect setting for displaying the art of batsmanship.
Usual one off the back foot there, everything behind the line, and a very knowledgeable audience here, very enthusiastic.
27 times he passed 1,000 runs in a season, 107 centuries, with a highest score of 307, nearly 8,000 runs in Test cricket. The statistics of achievement by a man of style.
And Colin Cowdrey backing up pretty well, not bad for a man of 40, still pretty fast between the wickets, always backs up well, a good caller. This is Kent's reply to the big score of Australia, 330 for 4. And here's Collie again. It's a short one, and a very good hook indeed, got right inside the line there. Notice how he saw it so early, always picks them up early, and that's a real hallmark of a master.
The grounding had been at Tunbridge School, where he learned most, if not all, the answers. They call this pitch the head, I understand.
Yes. I don't know why that is. It's always been. I ought to know, and I don't.
You must have a lot of memories.
Well, it does. I mean, it became my sort of home for 5 years, especially with my parents living abroad. That made a great difference because, you see, because it was more than a home. It was sort of, you know, this was my base.
It's very important, isn't it, to have the right master at the right time when you come to it.
It really is, you know, and he sort of made this place almost sacred for cricket. You know, you were careful how you walked. You walked off the square and you looked after the net pitches, and you respected everything. You know, there was a tremendous feeling of respect for the game. They're 2 very good players, these players.
Yes, this is the lad that you really fancy.
Yes.
To make the grade.
Hello, John. How are you? You must meet Barry as my cricket master, John Knott.
Hello, how do you do? So you're partly responsible for this fellow.
Not much, no. I knew it all before I got here.
Apart from John Knott, who was our cricket master, and a lot of other masters. This was the great thing about the school cricket here, and probably a lot of other schools, where you got all the masters down the whole range of games. We had Maurice Tate as our professional in the final 2 or 3 years, and that was a tremendous excitement, really.
So you were actually in the 11 at the age of what, between 13 and 14?
Well, I was, yes. I came here on the summer term of 1946, and I was in the 11 after about 3 weeks.
How did that come about?
Well, it caused a bit of a stir. I think the school were written to about my cricket, and so there was a little bit of a focus on me on a game over in the Martins Field over there, where I proceeded to get naught and take no wickets. So all the sort of atmosphere went out of things. They thought this chap's another has-been, you know. And,
did that actually please you? I mean, it must be a lot of pressure for a kid.
Yes, it was, because, no, I was very disappointed. I thought, my God, this is the end of my career, you know. Didn't think I'd ever make another run. But then there came a match on the head here, probably on this identical pitch we're playing today, where the 3rd 11 played the 2nd 11, and I was popped into the 3rd 11, really, I think, with the hope that if I just, you know, held my own, didn't do particularly well, they could leave me aside for a couple of years as a promising young chap. But I didn't help greatly by getting 17 wickets in the match, and so the headmaster was sort of had to be seen by the cricket master, and great consultation as to whether this young whippersnapper should be allowed to play with the Giants.
Your first season in the first 11, did it go well?
Not to start with. I was a bowler, pure and simple a bowler. I mean, I batted number 10.
You keep doing the old...
yes, I loved
so you must have been...
This leg breaks and googlies got me into the team. And we weren't a very strong side. And gradually I crawled up the batting order. And by the final match, we always ended up the school term with a 2-day match at Lord's against Clifton. They're no longer these days because of the pressure of the first-class programme. that it was a great wind-up from a cricketer's point of view, a great wind-up to the term. And I batted number 3 there and made runs. I got 75 in one innings, 44 in the next, and got a few wickets. We had a very exciting match, which ended up with us winning by 2 runs.
So from a very early age, you knew the pressures of being well known?
That's right, yes, yes, yes. As I grew, strange enough, which was disappointing, my bowling started I started to lose it. People used to say to me, come on, work harder at it, and I did work hard at it. And I bowled for Kent, and on my first tour of Australia, I bowled in every match I played under Len Hutton in the first early matches. And he really thought I could be useful in the test matches, to bowl 4 or 5 overs, you know, to get that unexpected wicket, or the wicket you badly needed. But I just didn't have enough ability. Probably not enough bottle is the word in today's sport. I probably got a bit scared and didn't quite float it up enough.
Not quite in Bennett's class?
No, I played against him a great deal, but no. I'd love to have been, because if you can bowl, it takes the pressure off the batting, doesn't it? It gives you much more involvement in the course of a match.
Hello, Peter. Nice to see you. How are you? Come in. Hello, Anne. Nice to see you. I'm Barry Davies.
Hello, how do you do?
Nice to see you.
How do you do? How do you do?
Well, you know your way around, so carry on. Thank you very much.
Ferox Hall, Cowdrey's house and home at Tunbridge.
You wouldn't presumably have come in this way when you were a boy.
Certainly not. Almost never, except to meet, of course, James and Jean McNeill, the housemaster and his wife. And the housemaster, of course, means everything, and they did a wonderful job for us.
Cowdrey was brought to school in England in 1938, when he was barely 7. A journey which included a passing acquaintance with one of cricket's greatest names.
I do recall it very well, actually, being hiked out of bed. My father, you know, whisking me up the steps and pointing me over the boat deck at the ship, which was lit up somewhere around Port Said. He's saying, you see that ship there? Well, that's carrying the Australian team going to England. This is 1938. And on board there somewhere is Don Bradman. My father was a cricket nut. But it was I suppose, the value he put on cricket which sort of did something within me to love cricket.
And it was his decision to give you the initials that you have.
MCC, that's right. Another evidence of being a cricket nut.
Ernest Cowdrey also made practical contributions to his son's cricket during Colin's brief time on the family tea plantation near Bangalore, where he was born. He countered a child's natural tendency to play to leg and allowed a young servant, Krishnan, to spend his time as a teacher of sport. The young Cowdrey's next coach was a Victorian autocrat, Charles Walford, the headmaster of Homefield Preparatory School, where in 1940 M.C. Cowdrey scored his first century.
Yes, it was my match as a prep schoolboy of 7 when I, you know, got the young schoolboy 100, and you know, you could hear some noises from the ring saying 5 more, you know, 2 more. I eventually hit a 4, and that got my 100, and put my bat in the air. I'd seen photographs of Len Hutton doing it at the Oval. There's 364 at the Oval, you know, and then threw my wicket away, as I read about. Jack Hobbs always used to throw his wicket away after he got 100. And when I got in, the master running the game counted up the scorer's work. He was only 6.5. Maths weren't too good, and I ended up 93. And the tears hardly stopped that evening. Couldn't believe it. And the headmaster was kind enough to write to Jack Hobbs and say, this little boy really has a great disappointment. We must give him a size 4 cricket bat, which was then about 25 bob or something in those days. And Jack wrote me the most lovely letter, which started, Dear Master Cowdrey. We heard of your disappointments. And awful to think you got 100 and only made 93, but I shall watch your career with great interest. And blow me down, you know, when I did eventually play for Kent, there we were on the balcony in the Kent-Surrey match at the Oval, meeting him and spending time with him. And he used to come a lot and follow me, and when I played for England, he was an amazing gentleman of cricket.
A title which applied to Cowdrey, though critics would use it to his detriment. Tunbridge was Cowdrey's passport to life. Academically, it prepared him for Brasenose College, Oxford, where he read geography, though wished he'd taken history. Sportingly, it developed his talent to the point where he would play for Kent before going to university. Most importantly, it established his values, particularly from his third year.
There was a change of headmaster. The previous one had been a great man, but didn't touch me particularly because I was just a tiddler. But the new chap was a clergyman from Winchester, the Reverend Lawrence Waddy, who'd been a naval chaplain. Brilliant all-round sportsman, as well as being a double first. Rather outstanding man. And here was a chap who, within a few days, had beaten everyone on the squash court, polished me off on the rackets court, which didn't please me at all, was preaching the sermon on Sunday, and you know, vibrating everyone with his sort of personality in every walk of life. And I think it's suddenly, you know, over a year, it changed me dramatically to see this chap who was the chaplain, and right in the middle of everything and everybody, and being better at it, everybody around. He in the end made me head boy here, and it was through being head boy that I was invited to be, you know, join the Skinner's company, and now a master. So he sort of made the path through to that. He came from a great sporting family, Australian family actually. His grandfather was in the Australian team against England at the turn of the century. So he came from Sydney, from Parramatta. Whenever I played in Sydney, there were always waddies around coming up to me and reminding, you know, I saw your nephew the other day.
Squash was another of his games at school, though he was even better as a rackets player, once reaching the British amateur final where he lost to Jeff Atkins, a future world champion. Racket games sharpened his eye and his fitness, which for a man whose physique was not quite in keeping with the elegance of his stroke making, became something of a fad.
Get a bit of work on your left-hand side as well.
These two things here, the two knees, are the killer for all sportsmen, aren't they? And unless those hold up, you're absolutely beaten. And I had, what, 27 years playing winter and summer, and these two have never given me 1 minute's trouble. And the good Lord gives you that fitness, or he doesn't. I mean, that is the fluke of life.
I'm going to be terribly rude, but there were times when they carried a certain amount of weight, too, didn't they?
They carried an awful lot of weight, but it's amazing that I only had 2 major injuries. Wes Hall broke my arm at Lord's in 1963. I say he broke my arm, it was a total accident, because he was the nicest man you could ever play cricket against, the most chivalrous opponent, and he was very upset about it. That put me out for the 2/3 of one season.
This was the match where you had to come in and didn't actually have to face.
That's right. Yes, I came in for the last 2 balls. I might have had to bat for about 20 minutes. And if I had done, I'd have played left-handed with with the broken arm strapped behind my back, or just held behind my back, because the doctor wouldn't allow me to hold it and then take it away. He thought I'd do myself damage. But in the end, we got very close. I mean, I walked to the wicket with 2 balls to go, needing just 5 to win. And it was all desperately exciting, and in the end I didn't have to really face up.
And the other injury?
The other injury was at Maidstone, when I was really playing well. I was about 48 not out. It was a televised match, actually, and we'd had heavy rain in the morning, and as I hit this ball very hard, and as I went to run on the other side of the wicket, my foot slipped from under me, and there was a terrific crack, so much so that I thought I'd knocked the stump with my back foot. And I had a slight curse under my breath, saying, God, playing so well and getting out like that. Suddenly the pain shot up my leg and I collapsed in a heap. And that was a worse injury than the arm, actually. That took a lot of getting right. And I had a very good surgeon, and it was very well repaired, and I was back to full fitness after a year. Some people are not so lucky. So I was immensely lucky over injury.
While you were still at Oxford, you came into the public eye because you were chosen for the tour of Australia.
That's right, yes. Out of the blue, really. Because I'd won my place, really, scoring 100 under Len Hutton's eye in a festival match at Scarborough. And he took a great interest in me after that. And in 1954 was the vital year running up to the tour. It was a very wet summer, like the summer of 1985. And I could not play at all. It was desperate. I got worse and worse. And I had all sorts of opportunities. Played in a trial match, which was at MCCV. I forget which touring side it was. Pakistan, I think. And simply nothing would go right. And then playing against Surrey at Blackheath, the touring side came onto the 6 o'clock news at the end of the match, and Laker and Locke were left out, and Cowdrey and Loader, Peter May obviously, Alec Bedser obviously, Godfrey Evans obviously, but Loader and Cowdrey were the surprise names, and slightly embarrassed I was as I drove away from Blackheath, from the car park where these other great names were packing their bags into the boot of their car, looking rather despondent with life.
On board ship at the start of what was then a tour lasting 7.5 months, Cowdrey felt very much the shy intruder. But the first port of call brought a change.
I got off to a good start. It was extraordinary. When we got off the boat in Colombo, this traditional fixture where we played one-day match in the heat, I was in about number 6 or 7, I forget what. And blow me, after about 40 minutes, the crowd were leaping around, chanting, falling off scoreboards and things, because we were something like 60 for 6. And that day I got 70, and I saved the day a bit. Then on the way round, it was then the old slow way, we went by boat 23 days on the water, and it was going around the States, you know, the West Australia, South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, looking at all the test grounds in turn, going by train. And I didn't do anything really, and I regarded myself probably as the 12th man who was going to really be carrying the great men's bags, you know, Compton and Edrich and Hutton and Simpson, and for me it was like living in Wonderland. And at New South Wales, the match, just 2 matches before the first test, against New South Wales, who were their stronger side. And I batted with Len Hutton.
Len went on to get another 100 with a straight drive to the boundary, the 128th century of his career. All this time, Cowdrey was the perfect foil to the master batsman. He made almost certain of a test place with his first Australian century and crowned it by another in the second innings.
And of course he took me under his wing. In fact, he went so far as to say, you know, have you ever opened the innings? And I said, no, I don't never open the innings. I don't like opening innings. He said, well, I think you're going to open the innings with me at Brisbane against Australia. And whilst I was very flattered, it was you know, I couldn't think of anything worse. I couldn't believe it for a start. Anyway, I was popped in first for the match against Queensland, and mercifully Ray Lindwall had moved up from New South Wales to Queensland, knocked my stumps out of the ground both innings very early on. And so by the end of that match, Len Hutton said to me, he didn't, in a manner, very few words, he said, I don't think you will be opening the innings with against Australia. That's lovely. But he had that twinkle which said, but you'll be in the middle order and you get your blooming head down. And he was a very tough operator in his quiet way.
But all the getting the head down actually did nothing in the end. I mean, it was a disaster.
It was. We put them in. They made 650. And we were 20 for 3 when I walked to the wicket. But I played I got 40-odd and got a start.
And England quickly recovered from defeat.
Sydney, the second test. Australia come out to field. Skipper Morris had won the toss and put England in. A courageous decision after the Brisbane result. Lindwall opens the bowling to Skipper Hutton with a menacing ring of fielders waiting for just half a chance. But Len gets off the mark, 2 runs. Bailey opened the innings with Hutton and soon survived a confident appeal. But Lindwall leaves no doubt this time. That's Bailey's middle stump. Peter May came in and scored 5, but how he made amends in the second innings, that century put us on the victory road. May was finally caught off Archer. England 19 for 2 and struggling. An uphill job faces Graveney, fighting to recover his form, especially when he lost Hutton after a brief stand. 5 runs later, Johnston bowling. And Graveney is caught by Favell. England now in real trouble, 63 for 4. Davidson bowling, 21-year-old Colin Cowdrey trying to stop the rot. He made 23 and an invaluable 54 in the second knock. Yorkshireman Wardle then showed his teammates how to hit out of trouble, a top score of 35 out of 154. From the opening ball, a test of fluctuating fortunes, with England fighting grimly, and then Frank Tyson bowling us to a wonderful victory by 38 runs.
The third test at Melbourne saw Cowdrey's maiden test century, 102 out of 191.
There were 60 or 70,000 in the ground. I was on 97, hit this ball away, which might be 3, and the crowd had tremendous roar after 1, and they got off their seats after 2. When I ran for the third, the whole ground erupted. And I think sort of tears came, you know, the generous Australian crowd doing this to a young Englishman.
Of your colleagues in your early test career, would Peter May have had the greatest influence?
I enjoyed batting with him. And perhaps our sort of, the thing that we have an annual drink about when we will till we die is our partnership against the West Indies against Ramadan and Valentine, where poor Ram was put on for 77 consecutive overs, I think it was. And we eventually ended up with a partnership of 411, which Peter obviously was the dominant partner and made 285. He was a very commanding, dominating player. I was much prepared to play the bridge hand and, you know, play the 3 of diamonds round and the 5 of diamonds round and wait my time. He had to always be longing to play as ace, you know.
It was because of May's illness that Cowdrey took over as England's captain towards the end of the tour to the West Indies in 1960. And his early tests in the role were shrouded in uncertainty over May's future.
I wasn't actually ready for it in the early 60s when I was given it, and I was in a position to take it on. I didn't bat very well at the time, so I was captain. One of those things particularly, and I wasn't a very experienced captain. And I certainly had no experience of captaining a winning side. And it wasn't until my own county side started to win things towards the end of the 60s. We had the luck to stumble across Derek Underwood and Alan Knott. Mike Durness and Brian Luckhurst came into an opening bat partnership. And our general standard of play went up. And we started to, you know, I like this word, moving the chessboard pieces around, and suddenly one was controlling them for the first time. But one really learnt to the other side of the art of captaincy. So I wasn't really ready to captain an England side perhaps till the late 60s, early 1970.
Having played under 3 captains during the decade, Cowdrey had by then regained the captaincy in controversial fashion from Brian Close, whose successful tenure came to an end when he was accused of what amounted to cheating in a county match at Edgbaston. In all, Cowdrey led England 27 times, with the West Indies his opponents in 10 of them, including the match at Lord's in June 1966, which gave the perfect illustration of the fickleness of captaincy.
We got this match set up. We'd done everything. And we got the 6 down, I think, and the score was pretty well level. You know, so any runs on from that, we just got to go and get on a good wicket. We were bound to get up to a couple of hundred or so. And of course, Gary Sobers and his cousin got together. Didn't look very good for 20 minutes. The wicket was bound to fall, or so it appeared. Don't think there was a chance. They played and missed a few times. And gradually, they took the game away from us.
Cowdrey was content, as many a captain would have been in his place, to give Sobers the single in order to attack Holford. Only gradually did it dawn on him, or anyone else, that a young cricketer was growing into a test batsman under their very eyes. Sobers moved on, at first protectively, always commandingly, and gradually, too, Holford lengthened his stride. This was magnificent batting, every ball critical, yet stroke after stroke being made as if with joy, and to remind us that a bat is for making runs.
It was a marvellous bit of cricket, except if you were in my position, on the losing end of it. And you look very, very stupid when you've won the game and you suddenly lose it. And people then look for every sort of reason why it was a thoroughly bad captaincy. I can't argue with that.
Mike Brearley said of you in his book about captaincy that you had many of the attributes for being a good captain. He listed intelligence, charm, generosity. But you weren't because you were too conscious of how things and you looked.
Yes, would you comment on that?
Yes, I'm not quite sure what he means, really, but I'll have to give that some thought.
but were you conscious of your image as captain?
I don't know. That beats me, really. I'm not quite sure.
Off to the sunshine and a season that's bound to provide first-class cricket went 16 members of the MCC. They were bound for Barbados and a winter tour of the West Indies. Colin Milburn, as usual, looked in fine shape. Big-hitting Barrington won a well-deserved place in the team. And though the West Indies haven't lost a test series for almost 8 years, the great ability and team spirit of this touring side could well make the breakthrough. Colin Cowdrey is a fine captain, leading men like Titmus, Parks, Boycott, Snow, Higgs, Jones, Graveney and the rest. Victory could well be England's this summer.
Where's Hall to Boycott? And he bowled in! Bowled in inside 8, onto the off-stump.
It was a tour which, for Cowdrey and his team, had its demanding moments.
Coming to the wicket, a very, very difficult time. And excited about that dismissal as Sobers comes in to bowl to Edrich, and he hits him in the heart.
The second test in Kingston, Jamaica, eventually drawn as were all but one in the series. With the West Indies in fiery form, Cowdrey shared a century partnership, first with John Edrich and then with Ken Barrington. An innings pleasing both the captain and the batsman.
He played a fine shot to mid-wicket. Will it go through? No. Yes, it has. 4 runs and Cowdrey's century.
But bottles thrown by the crowd changed the course of the match, for all Cowdrey's efforts to calm things. Denied a probable victory, England had to wait until the 4th test at Port of Spain, Trinidad. There, the actions of Gary Sobers, the West Indies captain, received rather more publicity than the role played by the England 12th man, Robin Hobbs.
On that particular last day, it looked as if the match was just petering out into a draw, you see. And their players at lunchtime had been told. This was the nearest to a trick Gary ever got, actually, and it wasn't really a trick. It was quite funny. He just said, well, don't give any appearance that we're going to slip them a declaration here. We wanted to come as a complete surprise. So all their chaps were lounging around, and some weren't changed, and, you know, it all looked fairly pottery. And as soon as we started fielding again after lunch, they all quickly nipped in and changed. And and Robin saw all this happening. And he dashed out with a drink to me and said, watch it, Skipper, there might be a declaration here, so get the boys prepared for this, you know. It all could happen. And sure enough, they did. And it was quite a good, it was very clever of him, and it meant that Jeff Boycott and John Edrich were able to just get their mind ready. They got to go in and sort out a target.
It was said that there was doubt in the dressing room about whether England were going for the runs. Would the captain like to comment on that?
No, I don't think I would. I remember thinking, you know, can we really get these? And the boy said, oh, we must have a go. And that's how that came about, really.
Gibbs comes in, bowls to D'Oliveira, and he's hit that to mid-wicket. They've taken one, and they're taking another one. 2 runs. This is the tie. England now 1 run they need for victory. Three balls to go. Perhaps another over, but definitely 3 balls to go from Gibbs. England leading 1 run for victory. Gibbs comes in, bows to D'Oliveira, and he's played around the corner, and they're taking it. England have won. England won a memorable victory. A wonderful victory by 7 wickets. With probably 2 balls to go. 2 balls to go in this match. Sobers congratulating Boycott on a wonderful innings. He's kept his head throughout. Cowdrey, too, has contributed greatly to this victory.
Arriving by VC-10 at London Airport, the England touring team, browned from the sun and still flushed with their victory in the Test series. A personal triumph for Colin Cowdrey, who captained his team with a mastery that few could have expected when he took over.
Cowdrey returned to his wife Penny and their growing family, confident of the future. But South Africa's refusal to accept Basil D'Oliveira would destroy Cowdrey's plans. And he never fulfilled the cherished ambition to captain in Australia. As county captain, though, his dreams were realised. The Gillette Cup had been won in 1967, and 3 years later, after twice seeing it slip from their grasp, the county championship pennant fluttered proudly from the grounds of Kent. It was their first championship for 57 years.
I was lucky to be captain of a county like Kent, who are cricket crazy from the top tip of Ramsgate up to Dartford, up the north end to London, down to the tip of sort of Rye, where Sussex starts, and Kent right down to the other end, and all through the marshes and the hop fields. They're cricket crazy, and every little village club and club cricket ground I've been to, and they all know what's going on. And that certainly stimulates you, because you're suddenly conscious that you know, you have a hell of a responsibility. Some counties are not quite like that, I don't think.
107 centuries. So difficult, I'm sure, to pick the best. But presumably the circumstances of the innings would play a part.
Yeah, I think most of my hundreds had a purpose, which is fun, really. I was at my worst when the game was slightly meaningless. I had to be needled into or a reason. Perhaps the innings I'm most proud of is in Jamaica, where I almost made 2 Test hundreds in the match. And the second innings, which I didn't quite make the 100, I got 97, I think, was probably the best one, where I took on sort of Wesley Hall and Chester Watson for the first time, and actually went for them rather than play them away. I sort of started to hook them, and that was a very exciting innings. I was thrilled to get 100 in my 100th Test match at Edgbaston. I think that was 1968. I was very pleased with that, because in that one, actually, I was injured. I had I pulled a hamstring when I was about 70 odd and batted on. Didn't do a lot of good by batting on. And come the next day, I had to have a runner. And who do you think ran for me but Jeff Boycott? He did it very gladly until I got to 96. Then he got in a terrible panic. I thought, my God, you know, it'd be on my sort of heart for life. I run this bloke out to 99 in his 100th Test match. And just one last 100. When I was very aged, in 1977, I think, my last year, Australia were over here, and under Ian Chappell's captaincy, they came to beat Kent. And I think we needed 357 to win on the last day, on a goodish wicket, a lovely day. And they expected to have rolled us over about 2:30. But at about 6:20 that night, we moved to the 357 to win the match, and I'd got 157. And I think that was almost my proudest day, because they were trying, and I was finishing. That was my almost my last innings in almost my last innings in first-class cricket.
You were enjoying it, even talking about it.
I did. I enjoyed it because I was fit and I played well, and the competition was strong.
And in the right setting?
Right setting on my home patch, and against the old enemy, and there was a meaning to the game. I think perhaps that was almost the fun, for me, the fun of batting was a special target to achieve.
I have to ask you, how was it that the great caresser of the ball became the fidgety scratcher in the middle who didn't seem to know what to do next?
I'm always in a corner on this one, because if I could rewrite it all over again, I wouldn't have those periods. I don't know.
Maybe you had too many strokes. I mean, you were a complete batsman at about 14 years of age, weren't you?
Yes, I was lucky in that way, in one sense. I think it's got to be an advantage to be able to play all the shots all around the wicket, and that I was able to do, and I worked hard to perfect it.
And his figures and the memories of spectators around the world confirm that he succeeded. The secret?
About batting, I think to stand still. Stand still. By that, I don't mean you play all your shots standing still. I don't mean that at all. But to keep your head still. You see, because if your head stays still, and if you imagine a cross between your eyes there, going down like that, rather like looking through one of those periscopes of a submarine and seeing a ship through, you know, on that things everyone sees on the films. I tried to picture myself a cross here, and my head moving towards the middle of the ball all the time. My head up still as a rock, and moving forward square as I can into the middle of that ball. And I think that's a key thing, because if it falls back or falls on one side, tremendous percentage of your power is gone, all timing is gone. But if you're solid there, power is there, and it's the key to timing.
And what is the classic Cowdrey shot?
Oh, definitely waiting for it, waiting for the ball very late. Dennis Compton's shot, actually, of letting the ball come past you and then coming in very late. using the pace of the ball and splitting cover either side and be able to hit it either side almost at will, to sort of see a board, a post on the boundary, either side of cover, and say, I'll hit this one to his left side or I'll hit that one to his right side. To be able to do it with no real effort, to not really hit it, and cover go to get it, and it's gone, and cover says, oh dear, I'm not quite so quick today. Great fun.
I'm inclined to think that our roles have now been reversed, because that chair looks like the chair of the Grand Inquisitor. What is it?
Well,
I mean, tell us the story.
Yes, this chair is, by tradition, the chair which is used by the Maestro of the Skinners Company, one of the city livery companies, which governs Tunbridge. And very in brief terms, Andrew Judd in 1500 or so, he founded the school in 1553, in fact, but he was Lord Mayor 4 times, a merchant in skins and furs, was a member of the Skinners Company. And on his death, he gave the farm, which is now St Pancras Station, and a farm, which is the land around Tunbridge, and a townhouse in the city. He gave all that to the Skinners Company to create and look after a school forever for poor scholars in Tunbridge. And here am I, a poor scholar, maybe a better cricketer. Now, for 1 year, master of the Skinners Company who governed Tunbridge. And so for 1 year, I'm chairman of the governors of Tunbridge School. This is my chair.
Now, it's quite extraordinary, I feel, that you have 3 sons and 1 daughter, and all 3 sons have played in the first 11 here, and 2 are now senior cricketers, or 1 is and 1 is promising to be.
Yes.
Do you find that extraordinary?
Well, it is. I mean, you've got to start by saying it's God's gift whether you have a good eye or not. And all of them, including my daughter, have a very good eye for a ball.
The boards in the school pavilion tell the story. Colin Cowdrey, captain in his last year. 30 years on, his youngest son, Graham, physically like him, but a rugged hitter. In between, Jeremy, who left cricket for the city rather earlier than his father, playing at school under the captaincy of his elder brother, Chris, now a professional, battling to live up to the name.
It's in the air, and it's caught. Good catch, and well bowled by Christopher Cowdrey. Valuable runs. Chris Cowdrey, the batsman, and he is the key man in this innings for Kent.
Have you felt for Christopher in his first year as captain of Kent?
Yes, I have. I told him it took me 7 years to sort of get on top of captaining Kent. We were in the doldrums for about 7 years. You know, in 1985, no one can wait 7 years, and he's got to do it in 2 to 3 years. But he realizes that he's got to pull it round in 2 or 3 years and make it all go, or he gets a sack. He understands that.
Having a public image has rarely been easy for Cowdrey, particularly when his private life became news.
I don't want to pry, Colin, but obviously you had to live with slightly more pressure than some, didn't you?
Yes, you know, I had problems. Yes, I did. And the children, fortunately, have come through, you know, and they all made their niches, which gives me very great sort of relief and satisfaction, really.
But that was difficult when you made the decision that you made and didn't actually present the story, is that right?
Well, I think there are certain things which have to be private and will remain very private.
I would respect that. We've talked about your batting, about Colin Cowdrey, the bowler. What about Colin Cowdrey, the fielder?
Oh, he's got it. Brilliantly caught by Cowdrey. A really glorious tumbling catch to his right.
The most fun I had, I think, was the catch I caught at Brisbane in one hand up here somewhere. I'd had time, because I'd seen it so clearly against the background, it had been in my mind to catch one and put one in my pocket. But this particular one, I was able to go with it and circle around and put the ball in the pocket rather discreetly and look around to see where it had gone. And the umpire was looking around, and all the cricketers were looking around, the crowd were looking around. The umpire was sort of trying to go 4 runs, but he couldn't see the ball. And eventually I was able to fish it out of my pocket. That caused quite a stir and gave me enormous satisfaction.
Fun and satisfaction. It was not always so, but friendship maketh the man.
I have some marvellous memories. Perhaps the greatest memories, I think, are really with the people I played with and against, and the people one met through cricket. I think this is the greatest treasure that I take with me into old age and retirement, is not so much the figures in wisdom, but the lovely people I play with, and the most generous people. I think of people like Jeff Puller, who I opened the innings with, and Peter Richardson, who I opened the innings with, playing alongside Peter May. And I think that David Lloyd did for me at Perth when I was flown out that time. Do you remember? And within 3 days, I was in the Test match.
Cowdrey coming in at the age of 41, a recall to the Test arena after an absence of a number of years. Well, a couple of weeks ago, he was at his home in England, sitting down with his feet up in his lounge room, watching television and looking at Jeff Thomson bowling. And now here he is, coming back to the Test team in Australia and getting a wonderful ovation, coming in as number 3 for England.
Thompson and Lilly were bowling at us, but they had to share one end, downwind, and there was a slightly easier end where Max Walker had to come ploughing up into the wind. And David Lloyd, who was not a great friend of mine at that stage, he is now, I didn't know him very well, he left me down the easy end for 3 consecutive 8-ball overs.
And Walker will continue bowling to Cowdrey.
And gradually I realised I was sort of hogging the easy end. I went and apologised. He said, no, that's marvellous. He said, the longer we can just shield you a bit, you'll get used to the light. Now, those sort of things, and I can quote you probably quite a lot, are the things that I treasure and take with me forever.